Hello, welcome, Walk in the Park. This is Tony Ingram, and this is episode number 153, recorded on December 7th, 2016. And if you want to see all of my episodes, you go to my video blog at walkinthepark.tv. This is a public access television program produced at Pegasus Studios, Time Warner Cable, Ithaca, New York. So support public access television. You can make it too. Just get training and come down to the studio here at one of our training times, and you can get trained to be a producer like me. Okay, so it is late fall. We've been having some wintry weather, and our leaves are gone. This is a view from Buttermilk Falls State Park, one of their trails looking north through the trees to Cayuga Lake. And that's Cayuga Inlet in the lower part that's actually feeding up into Cayuga Lake. So we can see a lot through the woods, but we don't have the wonderful trees and the warmth that we've enjoyed for these various months. We also are past the drought that we've had, the terrible drought this year. So I'm going to take us back a little bit, just a little reflection of the fall season. We're going to go back into probably early October in Buttermilk Falls State Park. In the woods, and just take a look at what was going on, just the beginning of the changing of the colors, and really not have much had changed yet. So let's take a look. Strong winds toss the tops of tall trees. Which give shelter and shade to the forest below. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Let's see, what are we going to do here? I got to get myself back to where I was here. Yeah, so that was probably what, late September, early October. The trees were just changing. Let's take a look at some more Buttermilk Falls State Park when the leaves really got to changing. This is Little Lake Treeman. It's behind a dam in the upper park. If you've been there up there, you're very familiar with it. It's a lovely trail that goes around the little lake. Most of the lake is filled in. It was created, I think, back during the Depression as a recreational lake. Also maybe had some flood control value. But it's mostly filled in with silt and earth and so forth now. So it's mostly a marsh. But here's around the dam. There's some high cliffs and some beautiful foliage there. There you can see the dam there. Some guy fishing off it. And then looking up from the dam around the bend. This is a place that beavers have liked a lot, as you can imagine. And years ago when I worked for the state parks, we used to have walks up there called Leave It to Beaver, and take people up to see beavers. And may have not seen them before, but certainly did get a chance in the evening when the beavers came out, and would learn a lot about beavers too. We'll walk along the rim trail area. This is actually a service road that's parallel to the rim trail at the gorge. Beautiful colors, looking up at the trees. And then down in the gorge itself, in the upper section of gorge, the Pinnacle Rock area they call it. Really some lovely contrasts between the deciduous trees that are turning a lot of yellow birch in there, mixed in with hemlock trees, which of course are evergreen. And the leaves have fallen on some of the plunge pools, the potholes. This is before the drought ended, so this was probably September, maybe early October. Yeah, early October. And then we got some rain, and it's filled up to what it should look like, at least what we expect it to look like. And then along the trail along Lake Tremont again, walking in the woods and along sections of Buttermilk Creek, along what they call the Bear Trail, and then along an access trail into the gorge from the Rim Trail, some leaves along at the base of a big old hemlock tree. So our season has yielded its leaves, yielded its growing time. Now this is the time for rest and pulling in and taking care of yourself and storing your food and storing your energy, whatever, until the next growing season. But we're not ready to give up on it yet. We're still going to look at some stuff here from the changing season. So we're going to go over to a preserve that I featured in an earlier show called the Martin Preserve over in Schuyler County, just west of Cayuga Lake, west of Connecticut Hill. It's where that blob there indicates it. And just have a short little video of a big old oak tree in the Martin Preserve. The Martin Preserve is a Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserve, and there are many of them throughout the region, and they are wonderful, and they have trails and so forth in them, but they're not developed as big day use areas like the state parks are. So let's take a look at this little shot. Oops. So that's a big old oak. I think it's maybe 400 or 500 years old, they figure. What you might call a wolf tree. It has been called a wolf tree. Is a tree that has perhaps grown in the open and gotten very large when the land had been cleared around it and it was left for some reason. And they often serve as valuable seed trees for the regeneration of the forest. Well, we'll stay in the area. We're going to go now to the right of that blob, that green area. That is Connecticut Hill State Wildlife Management Area, which is a pretty large park. There's a sign for it as we're going up on Connecticut Hill Road. And we're going to look at, we're actually going to walk into, well, this is along the roads. They've got these dirt roads up in there. You've probably been on them. And beautiful colors. The trees don't get real tall up there, not as tall as they might get in a bottomland forest. The soils up there aren't so good, which is one of the reasons that farming up there was marginal and land was taken over by the state, although that's a controversial story. But there are some wildlife ponds that the state has created in the area, and I went on a little trail, very short trail, maybe less than a quarter mile, going into one of these ponds one evening in October. And let's just take a look at it sort of live here. So there's some amazing beauty and tranquility out there in the forest that as we bustle around in town in our daily lives, we may not really realize. But if you get out, maybe you can get into some of that and maybe start to resonate with it. We're going to go now to up in the air with my friend Bill Hecht. Is a very accomplished aerial photographer. He likes to fly all around the region taking pictures of our landscape in the Finger Lakes particularly. And this is not Cayuga Lake. This is Canandaigua Lake, so several lakes to the west. And we're looking over, actually to the left is the valley. Just out of view is the village of Naples. And then just this side of the lake is a big wetland, and then the hillside right in the southern part, the lower part of the picture there in the gorge, Conklin's Gully. That's all part of what's called the High Tor Wildlife Management Area, and there's paths and so forth in that. And then anyway, this short video that I'm going to show you will explain more about what's here. We fly north over Conklin's Gully and the High Tor State Wildlife Management Area near Naples, New York, south of Canandaigua Lake in the western Finger Lakes. Great Hill, or South Hill, rises along the southeastern shore of Canandaigua Lake. Great Hill is the traditional birthplace of the Seneca people. Much of Great Hill is protected in a Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserve. Bear Hill lies north of Great Hill. On the 393-acre Bear Hill State Unique Area, there is an annual Labor Day ceremonial lighting of a bonfire by Seneca people to start the Ring of Fire, or the Festival of Lights, in which landowners around the perimeter of Canandaigua Lake light fires in celebration of peace and bountiful harvests. Vine Valley leads to the lake, separating Great Hill on the left from Bear Hill. So it's beautiful. It's really nice to be able to get a perspective from the air of the forests of the Finger Lakes as they are turning color, and other times of the years as well. Yeah, like this one. This looks like no, this is fall. Also with Bill Hecht up in the air, we're flying in Seneca County, it looks like, south towards Cayuga Lake is on the left there. And I think this is probably, you look, there's a little point of land sticking out in the left there in the lake from the right-hand side of the lake. I think it might be Sheldrake Point, I'm not sure. But in any case, we're flying south here. And then let's go across the lake here. This is way up by Union Springs. That's the village of Union Springs up there. And on the right is a little island, which is called Frontenac Island. And it's a well-known island to at least some folks. It's actually one of the only two islands, I believe, in the entire Finger Lakes. The other one's called Squaw Island, and that's up in Canandaigua Lake, almost right in the, actually it is in the city of Canandaigua, just off the shore there by the Canandaigua Lake State Marine Park. But Frontenac Island here, and you can also see it in this fuzzier picture from looking from onshore west. There is Frontenac Island, but I like this picture a little better. And that was an archaeological site. It's built on Frontenac Island is a slab of limestone. I think it's the Onondaga Formation, or one of the sections of that happens to be in the surface there and comes above the surface of the lake. And that was a fishing camp for people that lived there, lived around the lake maybe 4,000 years ago, or more, 4,000, 4,500 years ago, called the Laurentian people, the archaeologists call them. Anyway, there was a lot of archaeological digs going on there, and some of it was stolen and so forth. I don't think there's anything left there now, but Frontenac Island, pretty neat site there. Get to see it from the air. I've been on the island. It's privately owned, so I'm not sure that was proper thing to do. But in any case, years ago I did canoe out to it, and there's no archaeological things to find, but it is an interesting place. Now we're going to flying down the east shore of the lake. We're coming into Tompkins County, the town of Lansing, and on the right there is the Cayuga Power Plant. That's the coal-fired power plant that has been of some controversy and recently as to whether it should continue to be a coal-fired plant or be converted to a gas-fired plant using frack gas from Pennsylvania, blah, blah, blah. It's the end of a railroad line that brings coal up. But the reason I'm showing this picture is that just to the right of it, oh, I mean the left, I'm sorry, down the lower left of the picture, there is some undeveloped land, some wild land. Let's look at that. And with a couple of gorges coming down through it. And that is land that is owned by the New York State Electric and Gas Corporation, I guess still, that used to own the plant here, but now, anyway, let's see, I want to get my narrative about that here. That's a, come on up here. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is the old Bell Station nuclear power plant site. So back in the 60s and the 70s, New York State Electric and Gas was trying to build a nuclear power plant to have its steam generators cooled in Cayuga Lake, right there on the shore of Cayuga Lake. So this is where it would have been. And they tried a couple of different times. They put a couple of $1 million into the plant and into the preparation of the site. But local folks were not so keen on having a nuclear power plant in the Finger Lakes, in Cayuga Lake. A lot of us were concerned. I was actually sort of tangentially involved in that, at least getting petitions signed and doing a little publicity. But anyway, we didn't want to have a source of radiation like that right next to it. And there's a whole big discussion about nuclear power and just how safe and unsafe it is, and whether it's an alternative these days to fossil fuels. I don't think so, but that's my opinion, because I don't think we need to have radioactive materials in our midst here. If anybody's within 50 miles downwind of these plants, even from the normal release of radiation from the normal operation of a plant, just to vent the plant to make the workers safe, does significantly impact the health of people downwind, and that's been documented. So anyway, that didn't happen because local activists and scientists and so forth were opposed to it. Not so much from radiation was it stopped, but because it would put too much heat into the lake, I believe. That's what I remember being told by one of the scientists. But anyway, it didn't happen, so that land is there. And we're hoping that it becomes a preserve of some sort. The Cayuga Lake Watershed Network says on its website, Bell Station is a 500-acre property on Cayuga Lake on the north side of Lansing, with 2 beautiful gorges, several smaller forested gullies, big woods, and 3,400 feet of shoreline. The land could be a wonderful natural asset for paddlers, hikers, birders, sportsmen and sportswomen, and snowshoers. Thank you to the Lansing Town Board for their November 30th, 2013 vote of support for this great idea. Well, I don't think that's resolved yet. I think they're trying to get the state involved, and the Finger Lakes Land Trust may be involved in that. So stay tuned. It's not open to the public yet, I do not believe. But maybe we'll have a future preserve in Lansing on that spectacular piece of land that has, how much did I say? Did I say how much? Shoreline. There's 3,400 feet of shoreline. That's amazing for the shore of Cayuga Lake. So finally, we're going to fly down here to the south end of the lake. So what are we looking at here? At the very top there, you see a stream coming in. That's Cayuga Inlet. And then, just to the left of that is Stewart Park. And to the right of that is Allen Treman Marina. So there we are at the south end of the lake with Bill Hecht. So, So we've kind of in denial here about the onset of winter, the end of fall. So I'm going to go even deeper in denial. We're going to go down to Texas. We've done this actually the last 2 episodes, and I still have more to say about it. But we're going down to South Texas along the Gulf of Mexico. And you look in the middle there, it says Corpus Christi. And I was at a conference down there, the National Association for Interpretation, which my hat is for here, which NAI, the National Association for Interpretation, is a professional association for people like me who have worked in parks or work in parks, historic sites, museums, zoos, botanical gardens, aquariums, and a lot of other different kinds of sites, interpreting our natural and cultural heritage for the public. So you have your typical park ranger guided hike. That's an interpreter. So we're going to Corpus Christi again. The last two shows had segments on that. We're going to drop down to Corpus Christi and Corpus Christi Bay, and then just below that, that green area, that includes something called Oso Bay. There's a river that comes in there, an Oso Bay Wetlands Preserve. Get right down on it here. And this was one of the field trips at the end of the conference. We went around to various places. You had a lot of choices. And so that was pretty cool. And then we're right down on it, and it's a preserve of some size owned by the city of Corpus Christi. So our group went down to, they have a learning center there, an interesting environmental education center that has some exhibits and classrooms and so forth. And we went to go for a walk out in the preserve, so we were waiting on the deck. And one of our people found this, which is a kind of praying mantis, but not one I have seen around here. This is a, let me see if this is a grass mantis. Oh, got ahead of myself here. See if I can find the grass mantis. There's two, I think there's an American species and a Mexican species, and I'm not sure which one this is. It could be either. But in any case, they look like grass, and so they are adapted to mimic grass, help them hide better from their potential enemies or their prey, I would imagine. So the woman in the center there with the kind of turquoise shirt, she was our guide. This place only opened like last April or something, and they really had a lot going on, and she was really quite knowledgeable and quite well versed in this place, and we had a great walk. And trails went out. You can see a trail to the right there going out to the back, and at one point there is you can go out on a boardwalk, and at the end of it is a viewing area where you can see some birds. I saw a lot of different birds, but just a couple of note is this white ibis. So what can I say about the white ibis? Well, I've seen those before, but we don't generally see them around here. See them along the coast in some places, but particularly farther down south. This particular one here is flying. This is actually in Tampa Bay area. I didn't take these pictures. These are from Wikimedia. So, and here's actually the range of the white ibis, the blue area. So all along the coast from about, what does it look like? Maybe southeast Virginia, all the way down the coast, the Gulf Coast, the coasts of Mexico, Central America, and right down just to South America. There's a scarlet ibis, which is shown down on the north shore of South America. So here's the boardwalk that led out to that platform. And along the way through the woods, it's a very scrubby area. They're not trees, not trolls. It's really scrub land, kind of barren-looking actually. And it's they get reasonable rain around there, but it's also very dry. So here's some prickly pear cactus. One of the birds we saw that I had never seen before was this one. This is called a crested caracara, and it's sort of a bird of prey or a scavenger sort of bird, but it's amazing, beautiful bird. And they don't we don't see them around New York. And I had never seen one before. I was aware of them, but I had never actually seen one. And here's their range. Look at that. Just southeast Texas, Mexico, northern South America, some in the Caribbean, and a little bit in Florida. Look at that. But not one you're likely to see up here in your movings around. And, okay, so let's go to another little section of the preserve. This is one end. Look at this trail. It's kind of a sidewalk, this section. These are old paths or roads or something that have been redone. There's some warnings about safety, staying on the trail. And it says, it looks a little too civilized maybe for you. But here we're looking at, this is our just a few of our group, looking at some scat, trying to figure out what was here and what did it eat and that sort of thing. So us naturalists tend to look at those sort of things with a less than scatological interest. So as we were walking back along the gravel trail back towards the Learning Center, the guy actually in the back here who is from He's from Oklahoma, and he's seen a lot of these. But the woman in the foreground here had not noticed this snake right along the trail. There it is right there. And he warned her, and she stopped. And it turns out it is a western diamondback rattlesnake. Oh, my gosh. So she could have blundered into that, or any one of us could have. And it did actually coil up and ready to strike, but we were out of striking distance by that point. So kind of a little excitement there. Good thing it didn't turn the day around into a horror, and then have to call ambulance or whatever. So we went to another preserve. I don't have much time for this one, but this is actually a Southeast Texas Botanical Garden and Nature Center, where we saw a lot of plants and plant exhibits, but we also saw some animals, and they have a bunch of parrots, or things that are in the parrot family, that they are taking care of there, and they put them on display. It's a gray parrot right there that's from Africa, and this one is I think it's a yellow, let me see what they call this, a yellow-headed parrot. Yeah, yellow-headed parrot from Mexico and Central America. Gonna have to rush through here. Here is a yellow and blue, blue and yellow macaw, a blue and yellow macaw. And then let's see, do I have time to show you this next little video? Yeah, I will. What the heck? So we're going to look at a scarlet macaw here.
Hello, Tabasco's his best. He knows all those places. That's his best. Well, that and cussing. Yeah. You're a pirate. It's a pirate's language.
Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.